Okay, everybody. Hey there. This is Jason Eagle, your natural health authority. It's good to be back here with you, and we got a great show for you. We're going to start again with a little bit of update. So again, my name is Jason Eagle. I'm your natural health authority. My company is Strategic Healing. You can find me on Facebook. I'm actually live on Facebook right now, which is that Strategic Healing. And then I post these later on my YouTube channel, which is Jason Eagle QRA. That's a Q and an R and an A. Stands for Quantum Reflex Analysis. My number at my office, if you want to get a hold of me, you can go on the website and see these different information, but it's 734-985-5891. That's a way of contacting me, and we can talk. And I'm still doing appointments basically that way. I'm not seeing people just yet, but I'm seeing some great updates in terms of people's health. Great feedback. This last week in particular, I can't tell you how many people I've gotten texts from that are being like, have you seen this? Have you seen this? And this is exactly what you were telling me about like a year ago. Yes. And I'm going to tell you too, like I've been really watching the research on this in terms of, now there's different research on, there's two camps on, you got the doctors on this side, but you got the doctors on this side. And I'm trusting some of the doctors that are on both sides. I'm kind of looking at it, but I'm taking in good information and then noticing where basically the top information that we're getting is so much supporting natural health, the things that we've understand about zinc and vitamin D and vitamin C and all of this stuff and all basic stuff, which, is really better to get it in a whole food form or a supplement form rather than, again, why even buy the drugs for it? So there are some, basically there is a time for drugs, but this whole Western medicine thing is now turning towards, hey, can you guys help us? Which is, and especially to the public, hey, can you help yourself so that you don't have to come in? This is what I've been doing, and this is the latest news in terms of what if we glean from either side, whatever side, whether this side's telling the truth or this side, always look for the commonalities. Always look for, hey, you're actually saying the same thing here. And what they're saying, the same thing is about, we know vitamin C and zinc. We know, I'm going to get later into this in terms of how I was way ahead of this. I'm still on top of this, and you can be way ahead of this. And in terms of, you can even prepare yourself for, like, forget about like this, like what we're going through in terms of the virus and in terms of what's happening in the world. This is applicable, this information and these ideas, as well as these truths, they are true at any time. That's what a true is. A true is it's still true whether it's a time of abundance or if it's a time of lack or if it's a time of crisis or if it's a time of just full-on peace. And just, if there are truths that are the same in both camps, then boom, that's true. Okay, so let me give you a couple updates of things that first of all, if we still want to do some critical thinking, meaning there's a lot of great information out there. Dr. Medici, MediciEnterprises.com. You can go to his videos. He does a radio show out in California. He listened to his stuff and he really gets into the science as well as to the science of statistics and the science of information and the truth, the true, okay, is you can be given numbers, but do you know what those numbers mean? And do you, for instance, did they do the numbers? What do the numbers suggest? Well, you didn't count those people and you did. And so many times hearing even things that, and what is this all about? This is about gaining confidence and not being fearful, not being afraid. Everything that I'm telling you in this, what this show is about, and hopefully whatever news you see, it really should be about, I want you to be healthier, and the number one healthiest thing is to have a healthy frame of mind, a healthy emotional affect, a healthy perspective. That's bad news doesn't have to crush you if you have a healthy perspective. And good news, it's what is your perspective, and being able to get because if the perspective causes fear, okay, if it's something to be fearful about, and then your mind kicks in and says, oh, I can do this, well, good. And if it doesn't make the fear go away, and if it doesn't have an answer to each one of them, then it's not true. Okay, so seek for the things that give you that, oh, that's right. Okay, I will feel better. It doesn't mean that you're not doing anything. It means that's the first doing, is to compile your own perceptions as well as evidence and basically say, for me, this is what makes sense and that makes me feel better. Because number one, it's basic things. And I agree with what we're getting. We always should be washing your hands. And the hand sanitizer is not the best idea because number one, it runs out. And number two is it kills what's called your microbiome, which is, people go, well, what about gloves? Well, gloves actually, you're kind of spreading stuff around, and the gloves doesn't have an immune system. Your own skin has an immune system. And healthy skin, when you touch things, there's oils on your skin, and they have natural antibacterial and some of it. I'm not saying it's 100%, but it's some of it, whereas a glove has zero, and you're just passing on what you touch. Now, and the other thing too is when a person's, for instance, using lots of hand sanitizers, even just the alcohol, whether it be isopropyl alcohol or whatever it is, what it does is it kills the pathogens that are on your hands, but it also sedates your immune system, your local immune system. You've got one that's inside your body, but you also have one that radiates out of your body, and that's part of what's in the oils in your skin and stuff like that. So what the science, including the most rational things, is what is actually best for the hands is just regular old soap and water, because soap causes what's called a surfactant, which is, it just rolls off of you like a duck, the water off of a duck's back, that the whatever the pathogen is on your hands or toxin, it just comes off. Now, hopefully, the best soap is, again, good old Ivory soap. Things that don't have colors in them, things that, people may have bought some of those like goat's milk soap, and it all works. And the more natural, the better. The good old Lifebuoy soap and stuff like that. The least amount of synthetic ingredients and the least amount of scents, meaning, if it's scented with natural, whether it be essential oils, but not the chemicals and stuff like that. So find a good basic soap. Again, you can't go wrong with that Ivory soap, and even some of like the dish soaps and stuff like that. Those work really well. Now, I'm going to get into one of my questions, which is, it's caused my hands to be super dry. I'm going to answer that in a minute. What do you do about these dry hands? That if it's such a great idea to wash your hands, and it is, it's going to make you lose your oils on your skin. How do you repair that? How do you keep from getting the cracked skin? Because if you do have a crack on your skin and it's actually a little micro bleed, meaning there's, cracked skin, that's an entrance into, so sometimes even washing the hands creates another problem that makes it even worse. I'm not saying don't do it. It's just, that's why you come here. That's why you listen. This is to get, okay, what is the truth and what are good ideas, okay? I'm bringing you another update, which is I don't know about you, but I come into work every day. I'm here in my office. I'm still delivering products. I'm still sending out products. I'm doing curbside pickup and things like that. And so I'm here, fielding the office and handling it, the best way possible. But what that means is I've been on the road, and rightfully so. I'm one that deserves to be there. Not so much deserves. I'm one of considered what you would call essential care. What I'm doing is essential care. But I don't push that. That's why I'm kind of not doing the contact, because I don't have to. I can do the same thing that, I do anytime, but adapted to the contact list, and it still works the same for me. But what that means is I've been on the road, and I've been driving ever since this started. I've been driving around. And as I told you, I was seeing a whole bunch of people outside on their bikes. And well, I'm not seeing as many people. Now, maybe that's because the weather is kind of turning. It's kind of cold and stuff, but it was cold before too. People are, I don't know if it's a fear factor or whatever it is. Let me remind you, it's always a good idea to go out and get some fresh air. So I'm encouraging for people to get back out there and use your social distancing, use your mask if you want to, whatever. But fresh air and sunshine is always good for, no matter, again, it's one of those true things. Whether it's bad, whether it's good, is outside good? Yes. Is grounding good? Grounding is just either your bare feet on some for about anywhere from 5 to 20 minutes. The ideal grounding is on some good fertile ground where grass is growing or something like that, and especially something that hasn't been pesticided, meaning not treated with chemicals as a lawn. Find some place off. And then there's some places where it's even better. Get a good hint. Go to the place, if you go out and walk in the woods, a good place is where you see animals have been eating, where you see like the hulls from, let's say, black walnut hulls, where they've gathered them and they're eating. They go to animals. I have cows. They birth in very places where the energy, because the energy is not the same all over the place. There's high concentrations of energetic fields in the earth, in the places where there's really beneficial. The cows are not stupid, and the squirrels. Again, you'll find places where they gather them and they go to where energy places are strong, and that's where their digestion is better. That's where our cows usually go to the same place, kind of in the woods too, and the sheep, they go to the same place because there's an energy field there that actually makes them stronger and makes them feel better and makes them healthier. If you can go out in the woods and see those places, that's a great place for you to do grounding. Take your bare feet off. If it's really cold, you can have something natural between your bare feet, which would be cotton socks or wool socks or cotton towel. You can stand on top of that between you and the ground. But it's best to, when it warms up, and if you can bear it, put your bare feet on the ground. And you can sit there in a chair. You don't have to be standing there the whole time, as long as your feet are contacting the ground. What it's doing is it's doing a charge distribution. It's pulling what's called positive ions out of you and putting negative ions into you. It's taking static electricity. This is real stuff. And it's very powerful. It's free and it's very powerful. So I encourage people to get out there. I'm also noticing that people, like a lady here in my office, is when she saw me, or a guy just recently saw me in the back, that we're first kind of taken aback, like, oh, another person. And she said to herself, why did I do that? I just stepped in, and she started laughing. She's like, it's so funny. Like, it's like I acted as if I was scared of you. Well, this has been imprinted on us. And timidness about social distance, let me say, is get ready to drop this, because we need to repair this and catch yourself now, because there will be a time. There will be a time. There should be a time. There will be a time when you'll be able to touch again, when you'll be able to embrace, when you'll be able to have contact. And what we are kind of going through is a post-traumatic stress disorder. Get ready to not that, because many times when the all clear order comes out, there's going to be a bunch of people who are not going to do that. Now, I'm not saying go ahead against the prevailing, we're giving it time, but there is a time where we will be able to contact each other. So start, kind of preparing yourself right now. Notice that you are, if there's a hesitancy and it's like, I gotta break that habit. I gotta break that, because it's a fear-based thing. And once we get the all clear, then that fear, it should be very easy. I also noticed that, like for instance, people asking for change. There's a lot of like, oh, well, they shouldn't be out there. Well, people have always done this. Here's an idea. If you want to give something to somebody while maintaining distance, instead of going up and dropping the change into their hand or the fruit or whatever, that we're helping each other because you got to get close enough to give it to them. Well, you really don't. Drop it on the ground, put it on the ground at least 10 feet away from the person, and back away and walk away from it, and then let them come up and pick it up. That's a way of you being able to follow what you would call the legal kind of guidelines, and they are guidelines. And while also still not being like, well, then I just won't give to that person. Well, we don't want to go that far, because there are some times where, yes, we should be giving, people. I just drove by a thrift store just the other day, and they're handing out food. There's places all over the place where they're, filling up the back of your truck with like 60 to 70 pounds worth of food. And it's a drive up. This was right on the border of Auburn Hills and Pontiac. If you need food, there's food out there. So that's one of my things. And then here's the other thing, is I'm also getting news is friends that live in, or clients or people that have been following me, that live in places where you wouldn't think they would have chickens, but they got chickens and they love it. So get some chickens. Meaning, what there was before, there was a lot of like, municipality laws against, oh, you can't have a rooster. A lot of those things are being suspended right now. And in fact, people are having more common sense, which is, yes, don't have a rooster that's waking the whole neighborhood up. You got to have some hens, and you can have eggs. And again, you feed the chickens, and I can tell you how to feed them in terms of what are some of the great things. Their eggs are, when you have pasture raised eggs, they're super high in vitamin D. They're high in all these essential fatty acids, but vitamin D in particular. And I'm going to talk later about this is a big part of the research about what we're discovering about the vitamin D with this, and also, as I said last week, which is certain people's vitamin D is more important, and if you weren't told about it and if you weren't given the right form, then you're at higher risk of heart disease and all kinds of other stuff, right? So a great thing is to start eating pasture-raised eggs. If you want to go to the store, let's say Whole Foods or something like that, here's one of the legal scams, is people think I'm going to buy egg from a chicken that roams around, that's out in the sun and pecks on the ground, and like that's a great egg. That's the best egg that you should have. And we think that when you go to the store, it says a cage-free. Cage-free doesn't mean what you think it does. They can still be in a building on top of concrete. They're just not stacked on top of each other. So the legal terms of what you think is a chicken that's raised, unless you raise it yourself, if you want to buy, it's what's called pasture raised. Pasture raised means it's the legal term. The only reason that they can say that is if they're exposed to sunshine and free air and they're not in a building and they're roaming around. Well, that's what I recommend. Get some chickens, and it's great for your family. You can live in a lot of different places and have, chickens that are able to be in a pen, but then also are in a fenced-in area that are still outside, and they're the eggs that they produce. What you feed them, and then what they feed you is, wow, this is better than you could buy in a supplement, and it becomes food and a lifestyle. And so people that were never thinking of having chickens and before were kind of riding the fence and it's kind of a kitschy thing and maybe I should do that. Now, especially, it creates food independence. Food independence. Has anyone had any food shortages, or has like, hey, they didn't have it there when I went to the store? Getting your own eggs and growing your own vegetables and things like that, even just a little bit to supplement what you're doing, gives you so much peace of mind, and it gives you better food that you could ever buy. It gives you something to do, something to feel like, okay, again, I feel confident. And also, like in the back of your mind, if it really gets bad, I'm taken care of. At least I'm more taken care of than I was before. And that really translates into one of these true things, right? And those are the things that make the hugest difference in your life, right? Some Facebook people. I am going to, let's take a break here, and I'll be right back.
Or go online to wrdt560.com/asking the experts and click on strategic healing. And tune into AM 560 WRDT every Wednesday afternoon at 1 for healthy.
Okay, everybody. Hey, I'm back, and got a little echo there. Okay, there, it's gone. Everything's good. So let me get into one of my first questions. I'm going to jump around a lot today, and I think I do jump around. But my friend Gina, she's out in was it New Hampshire, and she asked a question. We had talked about it before, and I had talked about it in the past about gum pockets, meaning dental gum pockets, which is when you go see your dentist. What makes us really lose teeth is you start to get where the tooth grows into your jaw, grows into your mouth, and then there's the gum there. What happens is in between that space, which is called the periodontal space, food can get in there, but bacteria can get in there, and what they can do is because they produce acids when they eat sugars and they secrete these acids, it then starts to dissolve your bone, and then that's where you develop gingival pockets, which is then if the pocket gets big enough, then you're going to lose a tooth. Okay, that's a bad thing. We want to keep your teeth. But the biggest thing that we know is that gingivitis, which is those pockets, and you can't brush these things away, you can't floss these things away. That's where you have to go to the dentist to have a procedure of what's called scaling and this whole thing. But can you do this yourself? Can you stop this process yourself? Absolutely, you can do this. And again, let me get into why. Because the blood flow of the teeth it's been discovered, goes directly to the heart. Goes number one directly to the vagus nerve and to the cardiovascular system, which causes a bunch of stress on your heart. So we know that one of the real underlying conditions of heart disease, some of the worst, is actually related to gingivitis. Okay? So here's what you do. You can go to, let's say, CVS or Walgreens and get what's called the gum. It's a company called GUM. There's other companies that make them. What's called an interdental brush. It's those little plasticky things, like a toothpick that has little kind of fuzzy, like a toilet bowl brush. I'm sorry, it's the best thing I could think of. But it's what's called interdental brushes. Okay. And then you go online. We used to have one. Premier Research Labs used to make what's called ozonated gel, ozonated olive oil. They don't make it anymore, but you can go online and you can get it. There's a bunch of different companies. It's olive oil, extra virgin olive oil, that they bubble what's called ozone. And ozone is 3 oxygens. Hydrogen peroxide is 2 oxygens. So when you say, for instance, swish it around your mouth, you get it all bubbling up because that oxygen is killing bacteria. Well, ozone works better, and ozone that is in a gel, especially an oil like a olive oil, becomes suspended in there. And so what you do is you get what's called ozonated oil, ozone olive oil. I just was online. You can find a bunch of different companies that make it. And what you do is you then take a fresh one, a clean one, and you dip it into the bottle, you dip it into the oil of the gel, and then you put it in between, like you do a toothpick, in between all of your teeth. Go on the inside, and what's the tongue side, and the lip side. So basically thoroughly just really jamming that stuff in and out of there. The ideal is after you brushed your teeth, after you flossed your teeth, then you also use the interdental pick. I keep these things in my car, and so that I every once in a while will just kind of do the teeth thing, dip it in that oil, and as I'm so what you do is you stick it into the teeth so that you're distributing this ozonated olive oil. You then swish it around in your mouth and then spit it out. It's not going to hurt you if you swallow it, but too much ozone can create what's called free radical damage. It creates a singlet oxygen, and I don't recommend that you really swallow a bunch of ozone. And can't I swallow it? No. Just like you should not swallow hydrogen peroxide. It basically, you don't want to do that. So you're putting it into the bloodstream and into the teeth. And what you'll find is I've had cases where, they number these pockets in terms of how bad they are. And, if it gets up to like a 6 or 8, you're going to lose your teeth. A 3 or a 4 is bad, right? I've seen people that have had really deep pockets, like up to 10 millimeters, which is, you're going to lose your tooth. That's for sure. And I've had people that have done this. I've done this myself. And you, after about a month of doing it, you do it about every day or maybe even twice a day, right? The worst case is you can do it, after you brush your teeth in the morning and just before you go to bed, after you brush your teeth at nighttime. And what you'll find is it kills this thing that's growing there, and then the tooth will grow back. That bone will grow back. The pockets get smaller and smaller, and then the pockets disappear. So what's called gingival pockets or gingivitis is healed with ozone. This is something you can get yourself and do and save your teeth. But if you're at a high risk of heart disease, if you have heart disease, if you're on any type of heart medication, that's why a lot of times people that are having heart problems, before they see their dentist, they actually have to go on some antibiotics before they have dental work, because as they're drilling, they can actually get this into the bloodstream. And that, so they, again, if you're one of those cases, just start doing the ozone in your gums, and you'll go back into the dentist and they'll go, "What did you do? Like, your gums look awesome." You're, really, after just about a couple months worth, it makes such a huge difference, and it will keep it that way. So that's what you do for gum pockets. Let me go back to one of my updates. This is Jason Eagle, your natural health authority. My number is 734-985-5891. I'm on YouTube, Facebook Live right now, which is Strategic Healing. Last week I talked about my finger. I slammed it into a smoker, and the huge smoker lid slammed right on my right middle finger, and it crushed. And I didn't go to the emergency room. I really would have if time was different. So I told you some of the things that I did, but I forgot to tell you a couple things that I did that made a huge difference. And those things that I forgot to tell you is I did a mud pack on it. I've talked about doing mud packs. Shannon, who's on my Facebook right now, she just said she's been getting chiropractic adjustments. I was treating her. I was doing all kinds of different adjustments and supplements and stuff like that. She had a lot of back problems. She did the mud packs, and now she just said, my chiropractic adjustments have been lasting a lot longer since I did the mud packs. That's correct. So what are the mud packs? The mud packs are restoring the electromagnetic field. Now, I'm going to tell you, how do I know my electromagnetic field was blown on this finger is when I injured it, before I did the mud pack, I put it in ice and elevated it and all this other stuff. But when you go to touch your finger, if you close your eyes, it's very easy. Just like a drunk person, they'll have you kind of touch your nose. If you're not drunk, if it's not impaired, you can go right to it. Well, when this finger was damaged, I was laying on the couch and I reached over to touch it and I missed it by a mile. So what that means is my energetic field was, because see, we send energetic tendrils out of our fingers. We literally are sensing things before you actually touch it. And people will tell you this that have had, let's say, a finger that was amputated or an arm or something. They get phantom feelings. This was a reverse phantom feeling. I lost it. I couldn't feel it. After I did the mud pack, I was able to then immediately go back to it and find my finger. It was like now my energetic field was repaired and that tendril was back on, which was sending more energy to that finger. Now I'm going to tell you another thing that I did, which is I've done this before, but this is the first time I really remembered very quickly to do this. This is what's called controlled recreation of the event. Okay. So what that means is very quickly, so if, let's say you cut yourself, or let's say for this one is I slammed my finger, I immediately went inside and put it in ice water and did that, okay? But then as quickly after, so about 20 minutes after I put it in ice water, what I did is I went back outside and I went to the lid and I lifted it up, and then instead of smashing it on my finger, I very slowly brought it down and touched my finger. You don't even have to fully touch it. And then I did it 3 times. I think I did it like 5 times. It doesn't really matter if you do it, how many times you do it. What you're doing is you're going back. So if you cut yourself with a knife, after it's been bandaged, you bring the knife back. Don't cut yourself again, but bring it to that area, that wound. So if you slam your finger in a door or something like that, what you do is you go back to that event and you do it over, like I said, 3 times or more. You don't slam it. You slowly control it, and you act as if you were going to do that again. And what it does is it immediately took the pain away. I've said so many people, which is like where they cut themselves with a knife. After they've bandaged it up, they go back and they touch the bandage with the knife 3 times or more. And it's like the pain that is there, almost immediately the pain goes away. It's amazing what it does. It's this is all in the mind. This is all in the energetic. Because see, when you cut yourself or hurt yourself, it also imprints the event imprints into your mind, and because it becomes an alert, an alarm that says, "Don't do that again." And so, because what will happen is you'll have people that have had an injury, and then they'll see that door again, and they'll start to have pain all over. They'll relive the event, and it will create almost like a post-traumatic stress disorder type of thing, of where it's like just seeing it will make it happen again. So what you do is you find a way of safely and in a controlled manner, you redo the incident. And what it does is it breaks the pattern. Because see, my eyes is seeing that same thing, and now, I'm not hurt from it. And so now my mind and my eyes see that and go, wait a minute, you don't have to be afraid of this anymore. And this same thing can happen to you again, but it doesn't have to cause pain, and you are in control of it. It's amazing what it does, is it really did heal, because my finger is so healed, and it was bad, and I may even save the nail. I may not lose the nail. So that's an update on some of the things that you can do for especially acute injuries. Is again, if it's something that needs stitches and stuff like that, okay, you're going to have to go to that. But if this is something that you can do at home, and even after the stitches, is after the wound is healed, you can do these same things, and it speeds up the healing process. I took nucleotides, which is nucleotides are what the DNA is made out of. So if I'm going to build new cells, because I had to get rid of the dead cells and bad cells and then bring in new cells. So nucleotides I took, that sped the process up. And I forgot one other thing, but I said that last week. But I wanted to remind people that, oh, that's right. Here are the things that I did. And like I said, with this controlled recreation, this is the very first time that I did it as closely to the event as possible. And I am astounded, blown away with how quickly my finger is healing. I need my finger. I need my finger. Okay. This is Jason Eagle, your natural health authority. I'm going to go into the kit updates. Okay. So you can go to my website, strategichealing.us. You can go to my Facebook, and I put up a document called Here to Help. And in that, I offered these kits. And these kits, it goes Kit A, Kit B, Kit C. Let's start with Kit A, which is 3 products. 1, the fermented mushrooms, 2, the Immunoven, and 3, the Allercaps. Okay, let me tell you, I've been really following a lot of research. And if you've listened to me, okay, I told you about the hydroxychloroquine before it ever showed up in the American media on my show, because I was hearing it from Japan. I've been listening to the Chinese, but the Japanese in particular, and they started noticing this. And all over the world, they're noticing that, what are some of the things that work? And some of the things that work in the pre-cases, that work in the bad cases, and work in the worst of the worst cases. Hopefully next week, I'm going to be able to have a doctor on that I'm going to do an interview that he actually has a COVID wing. He's been treating people with COVID, and he wants to come on the show, and hopefully I'll be able to give you, news from the front, from the horse's mouth, and I think it's spectacular. But what we're finding is vitamin D is a huge thing. It shows that we really have a big vitamin D deficiency, and vitamin D is very, very easy to get. Vitamin C, okay, we've had a lot of real deep vitamin C deficiencies, but this is also, if you get exposed to this thing, what turns it off? Zinc. Zinc is one of these simple things. You can get it in the foods, but you can also get it in a supplement. You can go to my web, if you want to see something funny, you can go to my YouTube channel, Jason Eagle QRA, and we did what's called the Zinc Challenge. In my practice, I sell a zinc. Premier Research Labs makes this liquid zinc, and it's what's called a liquid zinc assay. It's so that we can test people, so you can test yourself to find out, rather than getting a blood test. Am I deficient in, how quickly can I know? I think zinc's a good idea. How do you know that you need zinc? It's what you do is you take a cap full of this stuff and you swish it around in your mouth. And we did a video. My wife did it where she sat her mother down and me, and she gave it to me. If you want to see some bad looks on a face, I'm such a ham, but it's gross. Okay, it's gross if you have enough zinc, it tastes bad. If you have okay zinc, it tastes kind of like a nickel. If you have not good zinc at all, if you really need zinc, it just feels like water in your mouth. It doesn't taste like anything. And as you start, you can take it to build up zinc. I had a question, which is, what type of zinc is the best? This zinc is the best. It's what's called a zinc. There's a lot of different types. Zinc is like that white stuff that you put on the nose to keep you from getting a sunburn. Like back in the 70s, Mom used to put that on. That's called zinc oxide. Zinc oxide will block, it's used as a suntan, or not suntan, the sunblock. A lot of the still sunblocks put zinc oxide because it blocks the UV rays from going through. The zinc that we want to take inside is what's called, this liquid, and it's called a zinc sulfate, all right? But it's what's called a zinc sulfate heptahydrate. Heptahydrate means how many molecules of it, and it's a hydrated form. It goes directly, that's why we can say your taste change, because it's not just in your mouth. It's not just the zinc in your mouth. Very quickly, your body, your whole body, every single sense will send this feedback loop to your tongue. And if you have adequate amounts of zinc, it tastes like, a dirty penny. And it tastes like it for about 20 minutes. That's why you can see the video. I don't like it. Yuck. Okay, but that's a good thing. It's because it shows that I do have zinc, and I've got lots of zinc in my body. So let me go back to what we've discovered in this, and that's why these kits that I provided, I'm having such a ball watching this news all over, even the fake news, because it's just even more basically re-emphasizing that we got this, and I got this, and you got this, because this is stuff that we can do. Okay, the fermented mushrooms, it provides, first of all, the mushrooms provide a lot of vitamin D. Mushrooms are one of the highest forms of vitamin D that's out there. Like I said, pasture-raised eggs are super high. Mussels and oysters are very, very high. Then we get into some of the organ meats of animals. And then we also, like I said, in the vegetable form, we get, it's pumpkin seeds. Raw pumpkin seeds are very high, okay? But the fermented mushrooms does so much more than that. Not only does it provide this type of base nutrient, it provides information for your immune system. So this rebuilds your immune system. Plus, what it does is it turns off some of the vectors of how these viruses get in. Once they get in, they have to get out of their cell. It's like they go in and they steal your plans, and then they have to then get out. So they're kind of like a double, 007 agent. They have to steal the plans, and like Star Wars, Well, we have to learn that same thing. Our immune system does the same thing, which it changes the code so that it can't get in. This is an analogy, but that's what it does. And then it changes the code so that if it's got in the cell, it can't get out. Okay. The Immunoven provides what's called olive leaf, plus a number of other stuff. But olive leaf has been shown, the Immunoven in particular has been shown to really stimulate the immune system. Plus, it is anti-infective, but it also is really big for what's called the cardiovascular system, respiratory system. Okay, so let me get into a concept that people don't, this show is for people who know and people who know nothing. So let me tell you, your heart is your lungs, your respiratory system. You breathe. The reason you breathe is so that you can put oxygen into the blood that your heart pumped. So basically, cardiovascular system is your lungs. And so when people get too much congestion and then damage in the lungs and they can't get enough oxygen in the blood as it pumps through, so they're kissing cousins, like Dr. Marshall used to say. They are two sides of the same coin, which is cardiovascular is your lungs in terms of your breathing, and because it's how you get oxygen into the cell, and it's how you get carbon dioxide and waste products out of the cells, out of the bloodstream, which is what's being pumped through the blood. So having something that really stimulates and supports the cardiovascular system and what would be living in the cardiovascular system, because most cardiovascular system stuff, as I said before, is related to infection, is related to a reaction to an infection, so literally infection, or a reaction to and an overreaction. So people that are really having the worst problems with this one is because eventually their immune system can't stop fighting and it gets stuck in the turn. Like, how do you turn this thing off? It doesn't go off. Okay, so then that's where we get into the other one, which is the Allercaps. Allercaps contains a couple different things that they really, if you're really looking at the research, is like, wow, this is spectacular. One is what's called quercetin. Quercetin what they found is it actually has some of the same mechanisms as the same exact mechanisms as the hydroxychloroquine. And then there's another supplement that we have here, which is called PQQ. It's hard to pronounce, but it's pyrroloquinolinquinone. That's PQQ. And what we find is that whatever you get exposed to, whether it's, for instance, a virus or a toxin or something like that, what gives your body the strength to fix it and then get through on the other side is cellular energy. That's why zinc helps with that. But PQQ is one of these things that, and again, it has that quinone in it. It actually has some of the same componentries as what's in the hydroxychloroquine. Okay, but the answer is even with the whatever the drugs or whatever they're using as therapies, the name of the game is to keep your body with enough energy, because if it has enough energy, then the immune system doesn't get haywire and your body's able to get through. So even with flus and other types of things, as long as you have enough energy, like if you got enough gas in the car, you're going to be able to get there. Okay, so sometimes, like in Mad Max, it's like you got a little car with a huge gas tank that's strapped to it, and you're hauling your gas with you, bigger than your own gas tank. That's what the PQQ does. That's what the CoQ10 does. They both have the Q in them. Okay, and what it does is it provides what's called cellular energy, which acts as an antioxidant, which helps to repair damage, but it also gives you enough energy to keep. I wouldn't call fighting. It's not about fighting. It's about processing the information. That's what we need to do even with viruses. You've got to keep processing the information to crack the code. And then it also, the Allercaps provides NAC. Okay, NAC is N-acetylcysteine, and what some of the latest research is that it is reducing the severity. May not protect you from getting it, but once you got it, it reduces the severity, especially, this is the big, the big news is especially in the elderly, because we store NAC, N-acetylcysteine, in our body, but as we get older, we don't have those storages. And so if you could provide that into the body, it's kind of like an anti-aging, because a younger person is able to survive and thrive and then transmute this better. So what's called NAC is something that's used in the hospitals if you are damaged from an overdose of Tylenol, or even people who've been using the NSAIDs, which is the over-the-counter things, whether it be ibuprofen or acetaminophen for pain and all this other stuff. You have people that eat it like candy, and it creates liver damage. It can scar up your liver, as bad as like alcoholism. And this is also used for an alcoholic liver. People who have, like, say, cirrhosis of the liver, scarring and damaging of the liver, is NAC is this natural nutrient that it acts like, I wouldn't even say a drug. It is a healer, and it heals the lungs, and it heals your whole cellular metabolism, so it gives you tons of energy. So meaning everything that I was already ahead of this, and you could be already ahead of this, which is just some basic stuff is on the vanguard, on the top of what the latest research is stating is like, because I'm not necessarily talking to people, like, as I said, the show is not for people who are laying on a ventilator in the hospital right now. No, this is for people before you get there. This is, and you're not going to get there if you do this, and if you're able to be healthy and strong. We're going to face what, and let's even take the emphasis off of this. What this is just fleshed out is this is what we've always needed to know, the true truths that have always been true, which is it's always better to be stronger. It's always better to have a good, healthy immune system. It's always better to eliminate the toxins and the immunosuppressant things. That's why I said, like, while we're at home right now, it would really be a good idea to not take allergy medicines that suppress your immune system, because if you're going to be on Zoom with the office, everybody sounds like they have a cold already. So eventually you'll get over it, but you're not suppressing your immune system. So this is Jason Eagle, your natural health authority. And let me go into a couple other questions. My number is 734-985-5891. I'm here to help. You can call my office and I can guide you through. As I said, is I'm still delivering supplements and doing programs for people. And very soon we'll be able to do contact and be able to get to the way that it used to be. But I can help people, no matter what. And there's also some things that we can do about the energy in terms of rebuilding your energy so that you are able to face whatever we face. Again, whatever stresses are out there, God created us and the world is created in a way that if you get that right information and get that right perspective, what can you do to me? You just make me stronger. You don't, again, I this is like biological organic kung fu, which is a good kung fu or mixed martial artist, which is the harder you hit me, you just make me hit you back harder, or you just actually spin me further away from you. So if your tactic is to run away from the thing, if it hits you, it just pushes you away further. So it all supports you. So we don't even have to think about fighting. We just think about reacting and adapting to the stimulus. And, most people were really supporting this, again, this fearful thing, which is you got to get the fight up and you got to, good fighters, realize that there's a completely different tactic to take. And those are the things, because you're going to eventually want to make peace with everybody around you. You're going to have to live in harmony with everything. And so this is a good way to not burn bridges, which is to learn from, so that you can say whatever stress came at me, instead of, I hope that doesn't happen to me again and just protect me from it. No, it's like when it does, I will process it, and then I will come out the other side going, thank God that happened to me, because it taught me some things that I really needed to know. It taught me some things that we all need to know, the things that are true about all of us. And so it's like, thanks, this is my perspective and this is the truth, especially when you look at immune system. This is how your immune system works, is it takes the stress and says, thank you, as long as we provide it the right nutrients and energy and environment, it's able to say, wow, that was really good because you adapted me and I adapted off of that in a way that made me better. And I'm now thankful that you came to me. It's not a good thing because it is what it is, right? There's no going back. So go forward. So we've got a question here about dogs and fish oil. Somebody wrote about they got a really old dog and, is fish oil good for dogs? Ooh, yes, fish oil is really good for dogs. Because it's, again, what we find with like cats and dogs is that really the raw food, they are really more engineered and geared towards eating the raw foods. And so that's why the salmon and the salmon meal and stuff like that is really good because they thrive on these essential fatty acids. And so including when an animal's essential fatty acids are up, it becomes like a natural anti-tick and also anti-mosquito. Their bodies a healthy dog and cat is able to exude out of their body something that blocks. You'll notice that a lot of times, people Everyone's noticed this. So like one person in a group when they're outside gets bit by the mosquitoes, and then there's other people that don't. And what you'll find is usually it's the person that has lots of sugar that's stored in it and has a weakened immune system. So the mosquitoes, and then the person that the mosquitoes don't bother at all. And there are these people, which is like, how come you're not getting bit? Because their immune system is so the mosquitoes are actually seeking, the ticks and the mosquitoes are seeking out weakness. And they're attracted to the weakness because they're just responding to a signal. So if you give off a signal of weakness, if the animal gives off a signal of weakness, it attracts a parasite, it attracts something. Okay? So by giving a dog oil, it helps with their joints because they really need lots of the oil. You know, when a dog or a cat, takes down an animal out in the wild, they go for the fatty things first, and then, and then they bury it or they walk away because there's a lot of competition, and eventually they'll come back to it and then they'll eat the rest of it. But the first thing that they do is they go for the fatty parts, because essential fatty acids is, if you could get anything, what would be this is true for humans too. So an essential fatty acid like a fish oil, avocados, these things, they really support every single thing in your body. Now, let me tell you about these oils, which is, I'm going to get back to what I said before, which is hand washing is so important, but you get people where you got these dry hands. And I do not recommend that you use these fragrance like, hand creams. If you can't eat it, don't put it on your skin. So there's a great idea, is if you really want to hydrate your hands, those gloves that I said that you may not wear, well, use those gloves. But what you do is you first put on some olive oil on your hands, or some coconut oil, or sesame, or shea butter, something that is a dietary or a natural product. You put it on your hands, and then you put on, they make some special gloves that you can get on at CVS, but I recommend putting on like dish gloves, or you can put on like those plastic gloves, and then go to sleep, or just let them, while you're watching TV or something like that, let them be on your hands for an hour. And what it does is it keeps this so that your hands, or you're not touching oily hands, but the oil is completely soaking into your hands. And it's this oil that your skin is made out of, not these bad oils. So you cannot eat Jergens, you cannot eat, these things, doesn't go well on your salad, right? But olive oil does, coconut oil does. And so you will, and you can put these on your legs. A lot of people go, oh, isn't it going to make me all slick and shiny? No, after you take your shower and after you kind of just lightly towel dry off, rub some fresh oil on you. Like I said, extra virgin olive oil or something like that. And then as you walk around, before you put on your clothes, most people will kind of brush their teeth or something like that. You come back about 5-10 minutes and it's completely absorbed into your skin. And then you can put your socks or your dress or whatever on. But it's gone in and it's fed your skin, and it's what your skin is made out of. Okay? So that's a great thing to do. On my last question, I'm getting to the home stretch here. I've talked about this before, but let's talk about it again. Bad acne in a teenager, okay? A lot of times you'll see the teenagers, their smell changes. They go from, they're like a preteen and they kind of still smell sweet like a little kid, but then they start to get stinky, both the boys and the girls. It's because their hormones are changing and their essential fatty acids, and a lot of times that smell that you get from a teenager is really, it's because they don't have enough B6. Their gallbladder is being stressed and they're not producing enough bile. And so what happens is their oil that secretes the sebaceous fluid now is very thick and very sludgy. And you'll find that kids, especially as teenagers, that's when they get money, and that's when they can start to eat on their own. Little kids, they only eat what you give them. So they eat a lot of sugar. And so once you'll see, like say, a teenager's digestive system start eating more sugars and the Doritos and the other junk, that's when you see their skin really change. And so, like I said, I really recommend the limonene. So for the oil, which is to make sure they digest oil very well and their gallbladder is healing, they take the limonene. It's like 2 to 3 drops of this little essential oil called limonene, put it in some water and have them drink it with their food. I would also have them take HCl, hydrochloric acid. Number one, if they're a teenager, make sure they have enough salt. Make sure that you give them, let's say they're 13, 14 and they're getting bigger and stuff like that. Give them almost like a full teaspoon of salt. And that will then help to build the hydrochloric acid in their stomach. Usually when they're a teenager, you don't have to give them hydrochloric acid. You give them salt and they will make hydrochloric acid out of salt, okay? Another thing I really recommend is a lot of times you see, because the sugar and the hormones have changed, their microbiome, their gut has changed. And they have really hurt it because they're not feeding it. And so sometimes what you have to do is you have to kind of do an anti-infective type thing in the gut to get rid of the bad guys, but not get rid of the good guys. That's what alicidin is. The alicidin does that, that's a garlic. And I've had some, as I talked before, some cases of models, teenage models that actually they were not, it impacted their modeling career. But once we fixed their skin, they were able to move out to California and be a top model. But it starts in the gut. Bad acne starts in the way that they're eating and how they're digesting foods. And so the sugar is really bad for them. And again, they don't have enough essential fatty acids. And the quality of their essential fatty acids, the oils in their skin becomes very thick and sludgy. And so when they get that cystic acne, and you'll see like teenagers, they got like a sheen on their forehead all the time. It's like they got grease face all the time. And it's not because they're not eating too many fats. They're not eating enough of the right fats, and their gallbladder's not working very well. So as I said, the limonene really, really helps with that. And then supplementing with a good essential fatty acid. If you can get those kids to eat the avocados and things like that, have them eat like almost a whole avocado a day. Have them eat the salmon, have them take a fish oil, have them take the DHA, up their essential fatty acids, the good type. And what you'll find is that you give them an oil change and now they snap back in the skin, because there are other teenagers who have awesome skin throughout their whole teenage, and they don't develop that smell and they don't get this problem. And it's because their body is healthy enough that their nutrients are enough, and they're not able, then it doesn't degrade and their whole metabolism doesn't shut down. And usually these are kids with a good, healthy skin that tend towards having a healthier, stronger immune system, and so they don't get colds as often, they don't get sinus infections as often, these types of things. So really, acne is not just genetic even. It's an indicator of health, that there's some things that are missing in their body. And later, this acne that's not the worst of their problems. It will then turn into other problems later. So a bad essential fatty acid, if you give that 50 years, that's Alzheimer's. That is neurodegeneration, these types of things. So looks like we're getting to the end here. This is Jason Eagle, your natural health authority. I look forward to hearing from you. Next week, as I said, get ready. We're going to have a doctor on, and we're going to have some great talks about some of the great things that we're learning. This is good news. So be the good news, and just be ready to hear it, and ready to change, and ready to go back to a new normal, which is better than the old normal. So until next time, this is Jason Eagle, your natural health authority. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
All right, Jason, we're all set, man.
Cool, thank you.
We'll talk to you next week, okay?
Okay, sounds good.
All right, man, we'll see you.
Yeah. Okay. Facebook. Thank you. I will see you guys later next week. Okay, bye-bye.